thank you so much for joining us today. We are so pleased to be able to screen 1982 at the Cinemagic Youth Film Festival this autumn. And we are very, very proud to welcome its director to talk a little bit about the filmmaking process and really the message of the film and what audiences can look forward to. So over to you, if you can tell us a little bit, first of all, how the project came about.
First of all, before I tell you how the project came about, thank you so much for programming it and in Cinemagic, because I really made the project so that it reaches youth and it creates a conversation between youth and the previous generations. So for me, it's a gift to be in this forum, honestly. How the project came about? It's slightly autobiographical, and it's based on my experience of my last day of school in 1982 in Lebanon, which is my last day there. Not in Lebanon, at the school, which is the day the Israeli invasion arrived in Beirut. And for me, this has marked me, and I'm still here. I look back at the past and at that day, and I just felt it's important to represent our human experience in Lebanon, to try to show who we are as humans and how we experience this. And not everybody's under the bombs, and we are just like everyone else in the world, in every country in the world. We're trying to live, and something like this just happens. And I felt it was important to put that on film and show Lebanese people for who they are, which is something that's rarely represented in cinema. The second thing is, this is a subject that has not been addressed. The Israeli invasion of Lebanon has been addressed in some cinema coming out of Israel, and I think there's been some really wonderful films there. And this is the first time it's actually addressed from the Lebanese perspective and the human perspective. And part of it is really, it just brings us closer to understanding that there's people on both sides of this. And this is very, very important for me. So that's why I made the film.
And with I suppose the worldly issues that go on, adults are always so acutely aware of the consequences of things and fear and anxiety around world issues. Mm-hmm. But young people, and particularly the young people in the film and this story, they are concerned with just what's happening them in their daily lives, and sometimes the whole worldly universal activity doesn't affect them. That's something that's lovely about the film, because you're getting across just what the young people in the film are experiencing in terms of relationships and sort of coming of age and their sort of daily routine with school and the friends that they make. And was that something that you wanted to get across in the film, that, you know, there's so much going on outside a young person's mind sometimes, that there's something lovely and innocent about that, you know, that young people are focused just on the here and now, and just as an example, what they're eating for their lunch that day, or right, what they want to tell a friend, or what a secret they want to let somebody in on. Was that something that you were very sort of mindful about getting that across?
I was absolutely very keen on the two worlds. Something that I've learned, and that was part of my childhood, having grown up. Actually, I grew up between two countries, Lebanon and Liberia. So, and there's always been unsettling things happening in both countries. So technically, I'm a child of war, two warring nations that have been really devastated by wars. And I realized that in spite of all of this, my life within and of itself was complete as a kid. And I had my concerns as a kid, and my parents did too. And I felt that there were two separate worlds, and one of them was completely contaminated by the world, and another one was completely pure. And I needed to respect those two worlds as actually really two separate worlds, unless they come in contact with each other. Then the kids become kids, and the adults become hegemonic over the kids. And this for me was very important to represent. And being in the kids' perspective also is akin to my experience of how I saw things. And at the time, in the worst of situation, kids are always dreamers and kids always find a way out, even if it's through imagination. And this is something that's very important.
And tell us then about the production and working collaboratively, with the cast members and the whole crew. What sort of an experience was that for you as a director?
I had to become a kid to direct kids. This was my the most important thing, and I knew I wouldn't be able to pull this off. Unless I got the kids to talk to me like I'm their equal, not like I'm their director. And this was a marvelous process. It was a long process of casting. We looked at 700 kids from all walks of life in Lebanon. From that, I came down to about 200. I was working with a fantastic casting team led by Abdullah Khouri, Mike Evazian, and Christine Joaquin, and we worked very closely together in terms of these kids. Once I funneled that down to about 24, and then we started with 30, went down to 24, and then I workshopped with them. And the workshopping wasn't like workshopping. It was actually having fun together, like watching movies. We watched The Goonies, we watched Au revoir les enfants, we watched My Life as a Zucchini, and then we just talk about stuff. And then there'll be the exercises. There were always cameras. But this was a month and a half long process during which the kids, I intended that to be that the kids build their own relationships to each other.
Yeah.
And the last week of work with the kids, when we were doing the fittings and all of that, like everybody was coming to the school we were shooting at, everybody knew their locker, their desk. So it became sort of, for them, it became like going to school. Like this is their classroom, this is their desk. So when we started shooting, even on days we weren't shooting in the classroom, the lockers was their locker, the desk was their desk. So it became sort of habitual for them, and then it made the world feel very real. And what was really wonderful is the crew that I collected for this film was mostly Lebanese and from all walks of life as well. I mixed everybody of the spectrum, really, the left and the right, politically, religions, classes. I wanted this to be a hodgepodge because this is our story collectively as Lebanese people, and I wanted to represent us fully in the film and the way I believe the pluralism is in the film. And so everybody had a really strong emotional connection to the material, even to the point that sometimes we'd be shooting scenes and we would be really emotional, especially us adults, like me, Nadine, Aliyah, who plays Miss Layla. Like we were all sort of, there were moments where we had to kind of step back and be like, we're reliving this, like we're reenacting, So it was wonderful. It was tough. It was highly rewarding. And the kids were an unbelievable surprise. Sometimes they just improvised and I just let them go with it. And that's what you see on screen in a lot of places.
That's incredible. And it's so heartwarming as well to hear that, just in terms of you enabling the young people to feel comfortable, for you to see how they sort of react, just forming relationships with people, in a natural way. And as you say, the workshopping wasn't workshopping, it was more just letting them be who they are and just letting them, so that you could then see the sort of qualities that were shining through from each of them. And what then has been the sort of critical response, or just the general audience response from those who have seen the movie so far?
To be quite honest, I didn't know how the world was going to respond to the film. It's still been hard to sort of find distribution for it in particularly in Europe. We're distributed almost all over the world except in the UK and Western Europe right now, which is interesting, but there's some serious interest. The audience response has been, to be quite honest, quite wonderful, because Lebanese people, this film is speaking to them on a multi-generational level. For them, this film is sort of arguably the first and only film to really encapsulate our paradoxes and our differences without it antagonizing, but opening it for a dialogue, which is what I wanted to make, a film that unites us as an experience, as a people, because the country is very you know, there's a lot of factions, and I wanted to bring my experience of Lebanon to the film and translate that to the audience. And it is really inspiring the audience. The responses I'm getting have been really, really incredible and emotional. When we first premiered this film in Toronto, there were two sisters. They were 17. They came to me after the film, and they just were in tears, and they just said thank you. And they said, for the first time, we understand our parents. It seems they left Lebanon and they, sorry. Yeah, there's a generation in Lebanon that never wanted to talk about the war, that wants to forget this war and that forget that it existed. But this film just kind of, I think it's important for us to address this so we can move forward. And one of the reasons I made the film is that so that history stops repeating itself in a country like Lebanon where it continues to do so. So clearly what happened in August 4th in Lebanon was really, really heartbreaking to all of us, and brings this film even closer to home, because we really need to save our city and our country from everything that's going on around us. And we can only do that through hope. And we need to give the baton to the younger generation to make a better country than we did, you know, and than our parents did. That's basically what I want.
And no better platform than film to do that. I'm sure as a director and as a filmmaker, you fully are, you fully believe in that. And as you said, you know, the universal message people can relate to that wherever in the world they live, or wherever in the world they have experienced perhaps conflict, or even just conflict within a small area or within their own family environment. So that universal message is something that audiences can look forward to finding a common ground with. Yeah. Well, we are very proud to show it at Cinemagic, and Cinemagic is about providing opportunities to inspire young people and for young people's voices to be heard. And congratulations on the film, and we wish it every success, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
The best with it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time and for inviting us.
Yes. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.